Good morning, everyone. This is Linda with Linda's Soup Plants for You. Today we're going to talk about a very sad story. And I'm sharing this with you guys because I just thought it might be good to let people know that, bad things happen to everyone once in a while, and we get through it and we get over it and life goes on. But I want to tell you about what happened to me last night. Or I should say to my husband. Now, what you're looking at here is an Amaryllis bulb. This bulb was the second one that he brought home. One of two. And this one was the other one. And they came in these terracotta pots, which is really bizarre, but nevertheless. But the beginning of the story is, I had told him a couple weeks ago I would really love to have an amaryllis in the house for the holidays, and because we weren't able to have a tree, and I just really wanted to have something for Christmas. And so I said, next time you're out and about, see if you can find one. And he looked and couldn't find one, and I said, the grocery store might have them. So he went. He does the grocery shopping now because I'm unable to. And yesterday, after working 12 hours, he went to Pick and Save, which actually it's Kroger now, but he comes home, he walks in the front door, and he's got two bags in his hand. One has got my medicine that he picked up at Walgreens, and the other was the amaryllis bulb with this big, long stick sticking out of it and a big red amaryllis flower on the top of it. And my face must have lit up and just beaming because I was so excited that he remembered and that he brought it for me. And he was so proud of himself that you could just tell, as he was handing it to me, he was so excited to give it to me. Well, that excitement quickly faded when I started to peel back the bag. I brought it in here and set it on the table, and I started peeling the bag back, and I noticed on the top there was, on the green part, there was a big black spot, and I thought, uh-oh. And then as I kept going, I pulled it out of the soil, and it was completely rotted. The roots were like wet noodles, mushy noodles, and brown and fallen off, and I was so sad. And all I could think of was, what, can something just go right? Just can I have one day where something doesn't have to go wrong every day, does it? As it's been, and it's been a while, and we are due for a turnaround, I can tell you that. And I started crying. I had tears. And it was just a culmination of so many things that have been happening in our family, along with, like I said, the fact that he tried to do something nice for me, and that couldn't even turn out. So I guess I reached my limit that last night. Well, he wouldn't even eat his dinner. He said, I'm gonna take it back. And I said, no. Just, you can do this on your way home from work tomorrow. You need to eat it. And he said, nah, it's early enough yet. He says, I'll go and take it back. He said, why don't you call them and see if they have another one that's, a good one. And I said, all right. So I called him. And I was on the phone. I called and I said, I pressed 4 for the floral department, and it took forever for someone to answer. And the girl finally came on the phone, and she said, I told her what had happened, and I said, before he comes all the way back there, because it's a good 25-minute drive, 25 minutes depending on the road and the traffic. Closer to 25 minutes. One way. So I said, could you please do me a favor and could you look at the few you have left and actually pull the bulb out of the soil and tell me if you have any that are still viable, that are still good. And, oh, sure, hold on a minute. Well, I am no exaggeration. I looked at you know how your cell phone keeps track of the time you're on a call? It was almost 20 minutes that she had me on hold. And in that 20 minutes time, I had another girl pick up the phone, you know, good evening, can I help you? And I said, well, I have somebody helping me already. And she said, okay, and she hung up. And it went back into silent mode. And then it started ringing again, and a man answered. And he said, good evening, can I help you? And I said, well, I'm waiting for the girl in the floral department. And he said, there is nobody in the floral department right now. She went home. And I said, wait a minute, what do you mean she went home? I said, I've been on hold here for nearly 20 minutes waiting for her to come back on the phone. Oh, well, just hold on. He said, hold on, I'll see what's going on. So he put me back on hold. 10 more minutes went by. So now I'm on the phone for well over a half an hour. The original girl I talked to comes back on the phone and she says, I don't know, she says, I don't know which one you want me to look at. She said, there's 2 in pots in soil and there's 2 in glass in water. And I had to stop for a moment and compose myself to keep from losing it on her, because I just asked her, can you go and pull it out of the soil and make sure that the roots are good? And it's like, I don't understand why you would be asking me this question. So I didn't say anything to her because, you know, I don't like negativity and I didn't want to start anything. But by this time, folks, I was so frustrated, you know, just shaking my head and just, it's like, man, can anybody do their job nowadays? So I said, well, I wanted you to pull the bulb out of the soil and look at the roots and make sure that they're not rotted. And she said, well, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking for. I don't normally work in this department. Well, at that point, I just said, just forget it. Just forget it. We'll just bring it back and get a refund. Okay, thank you, and hung up on me. So needless to say, my frustration became even more. And I couldn't even talk at that point. My husband looked at me and I looked at him and neither one of us said a word. It was just sad. And you know, the worst part is I felt really bad for him. Now I see something crawling in here. That's not good. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so I'm feeling really bad for him because all he tried to do was surprise me, and now he's got to go take an hour out of his short evening to go back and get this done. Well, while he was gone, he went back, he took it back and got his money back, and then he went to another store. And he came home and walked up behind me, and I turned and looked, and he had these in his hand, one in each hand, with this big grin on his face, like a little boy that just bought his mama her first, most bestest birthday present. You could just tell he was just all full of happiness and whatever, excitement. And I'm looking at these, and you can tell by what I just peeled off of here, they looked dead to me, and I was like, oh boy. Well, I wasn't about to let him know anything that I suspected after all that. So I waited till he ate his dinner, and then a little while later he got in the shower, and then he went to bed. And usually once he goes in the shower, I don't see him. When he gets out of the shower, he'll yell down the hall, good night, I love you, and so I know he's going to bed. So that's what he did last night. So I knew I was in the clear, so I came in the dining room. I couldn't wait to get in here and pull these apart and see what was really going on. And in the meantime, I texted my friend Susie and I told her, and she's trying to make me feel better and saying, well, if there's any green on it at all, blah, 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 and, you know, maybe this and that, and there's probably not any roots on it. Yeah, I'm seeing bugs crawling on here. I'm not liking that at all. I better get this away from here. So anyway, the end result was this. I pulled this one out of the pot, and I could not believe the amount of roots that were in here. So this one is good, I think. There's green here, and I don't know if this is where the bud was coming. I don't feel an actual lump there, so I really don't know, and I guess I won't until some time has passed. But I really need for one of these to bloom, because he so went out of his way. And then I said, you went to another store? And he said, well, yeah. I remembered that Piggly Wiggly had a plant department, because whenever I mail stuff in the morning, the mailbox is right by the window, and that's where the plant section is. I always see flowers in the window. I said, oh. So I figured I'd go in and see. So, like I said, he was so excited about this, and I did not have the heart to tell him they don't look very good. I don't think they're gonna make it. And I haven't told him, and I'm not going to tell him. I'm gonna hope if they don't make it, I'm gonna hope he just forgets about it, but he probably won't, because he's got a pretty good memory when it comes to that kind of stuff. I guess the thing that upsets me the most about this is, years ago, people wouldn't sell something like that. They had people that worked in the floral department, and they took such good care of the plants. And they hired people that knew about plants. Now they just stick anybody over there. And it's not just the grocery stores. It's the big box stores too. The Home Depots and Lowe's. I can't tell you how many times I've gone in those stores and saw thousands of dollars worth of plants ruined because of overwatering. And I just don't understand why somebody doesn't do something or say something, if for no other reason, their loss of revenue. I mean, that's got to affect their bottom line too. But, they don't care. They'll just up the price and we'll pay for it. Wouldn't it be easier if they just... Oh, and that was the other thing. It didn't have any drainage hose. I've never seen a terracotta pot without a drainage hose. I guess they do sell those at IKEA, but I've never seen them, so... Alright, enough about my ranting, but... Boy, he was trying so hard to do something nice, and... I can't tell you how bad I felt for him. I didn't even care about the flower at that point. I just felt so bad for my husband that he would go out of his way, and and in the meantime he's got to drag in all the bags of groceries, and it's pouring rain. Did I mention that? So he's wet, the grocery bags are wet. I mean, it was just a night. Okay, well, this one looks similar to the other one. The other one had a few more roots on it than this, but this is really, these roots are pretty good. Well, I'm going to take this apart, and what you're seeing down the bottom there is sand. And that just, I don't know how all the sand got on the bottom, and I'm very perplexed at these. I don't understand what happened here, but and I don't know if I mentioned this is an Amaryllis bulb. I think I did in the beginning, but my memory hasn't been too great lately, so if I repeat myself, please forgive me. Alright, I gotta I got a wet one here. You never want to leave the wet roots on there because they will just continue to rot and they will attract fungus gnats, which I sure hope that's not what that was crawling on there. I don't know. Well, it was only one, so I'm not going to I won't be too concerned about it. I don't know. These roots on this one feel damp, and that I don't understand because the top of this was so dried out that it doesn't feel mushy, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this one. But I'm going to pot her up anyway. We're going to see. Give her a chance. And that's the other thing. We don't have any sunshine and we're not supposed to get any all week. So that's another problem here. I'm going to have to put her in maybe under my grow light, under my hydro light, so I make sure she gets enough. Boy, this is so close to. This is still wet down here, and that's what I don't understand, how that can be. But, oh well, let's pot her up and see what she does, hey? Okay. Okay. I'm thinking we got it. I did wash this before, but I put dirt in it and then I dumped it out, so it's fresh dirt. It's not. I'm going to put some soil in here and plant her up and see what happens. You know, there's something to be said for the little things in life, and I can remember many years ago when Phil Donahue, some of you will not know who that is, some of you will remember him, and I can remember him saying, he had a lot of guests on his talk show for marriage, marriage or children, how to raise children and all those types of things. And I can remember his so-called experts that used to come on there and talk about what makes marriage successful. And at that time, they just had this thing going on. Everything you turned on, it was, we need more communication. People need to learn to communicate more. And wow, that's very true today, because so many people don't know how to communicate unless they're texting. But back then, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know if I agree with that. And here's why. The two things they talked a lot about was you got to give at least 50-50 and you have to communicate. Well, my grandma always taught me you try to give 100%, and because we're human, you'll probably never reach that goal, but it's a good goal to shoot for. And if you are giving 100% or trying, if your spouse really loves you, they're going to see that you're doing that, and they're going to reciprocate, and they're going to try to give 100%. And while we are always going to fall short of that, that's not the point. We're trying. Whereas if you give 50%, then what? So you get to the 50% and say, I've done enough this week, I'm not doing any more, it's your turn. That kind of mentality is what got a lot of people in trouble. I'm doing my share, you need to do yours, kind of thing. But when you're both doing what you can for each other, they reciprocate and they want to do more for you. At least that's how I feel. The more my husband does for me, the more I want to do for him, and vice versa. And sometimes communication is not the answer. Sometimes we communicate too much. We say too much. We think too much about things. And I have found over the years that very often when we disagree on something, I just then stay quiet and I think about it, and I give him time to think about it. And if it's something that can wait, then we wait. Because 90% of the time, you won't feel that strongly about it in a day or two. So a perfect example of that is when we bought this house. It was an old rundown cottage. It should have probably been torn down. And we rebuilt it together from the ground up while we lived in it. So we've got a lot of history in this house. But the bathroom was so bad. And we had to completely gut that. And when we started talking about putting it back together, I wanted the big fat tiles that were easy to clean, ceramic tiles, and he wanted those little tiny squares, which I absolutely hated because I had to clean them. And I had them in enough places that I lived in to know that they're very hard to clean because that grout gets dirty, and it's even with a scrub brush you can't. They were awful. I hated the way they looked. I hated how hard they were to clean, and I refused to have those in my house. And I said, he said, well, my dad is really good at laying that, and he says he'll probably do it for nothing. I said, I don't care. I don't want those in the house. And we got into a little bit over it. Not a big argument, but we disagreed vehemently. And at some point, we just both kept quiet and went on about our day. And it took another, I don't remember, I want to say it was another year or two before we put tiles in there. And I said, my sister's coming over to help me put tiles in, and I want to get these. And I told him what kind I wanted and what color. And he said, well, go ahead, what are you waiting for? So there you go. A year or two later, it didn't matter. He didn't care what tiles we put in. And because someone else was doing the work, it mattered even less. So that was the fix for that. But the other thing is, my grandma used to say, never go to bed angry, or don't get in a heated discussion. If you think you have a valid point, wait until the next day. Don't do that at night when you're tired. And she said, if you still feel that way when you get up in the morning, then you need to talk about it. You don't want to let it fester. So, okay. And that has worked very well for me. There were many mornings I woke up and said to myself, boy, I'm so glad I didn't make a big deal out of that last night. I don't know what was wrong with me, why I got so overly whatever. So, and I'm bringing this up, I'm not trying to lecture anybody or tell people how to live their life, but I'm saying when you have a marriage where there's give and take, and somebody does something like this for you, it really deserves a huge thank you and a big hug, and regardless of how it turns out, because it wasn't his fault that the plant was dead, I could have been nasty and said, well, geez, haven't you seen, you've seen me do this enough that you should know when you look at it that it's blah, blah, blah. I could have done that. But no, I'm not going to. And why would you? So, we've been together 40 years. Yeah, be 40 years this year. It'll be 41 years in January, in May of next year. And I can count the times on one hand that we've had a blowout argument. So, it must be working, folks. Okay. Well, what do we think? What do we think about this? Is it going to make it? There's a real little bit of light green at the top of here. But it's very light green and very pale. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. I will be bringing you an update on it. And hopefully soon we will have an amaryllis flower. I know that one of them is white because it had this tag in it. For those of you that don't know what an amaryllis looks like. So that is... and they were... oh, that was the other thing. They were only $5 a piece. The first one he bought me that was dead it was only one and it was $12. So, I guess you get what you pay for. So, all right. Well, we'll see. I want to, thank you all for coming and being a part of my channel. And I know Christmas is coming soon. What are we at here? When is it? Thursday. I think Thursday night is Christmas Eve for us, and then I think Christmas Day is Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So it's almost here, folks. And hopefully you will all have wonderful holidays to enjoy. And even if you can't be with your loved ones in person, perhaps you'll be able to work something else out so that you can sort of be with them. Yeah. Alright, I better not. I better just leave that be. Well, if anybody has experience with the amaryllis bulb and you want to add to my story here, feel free. I always welcome good advice or good comments, and hopefully together we can get these to grow. Okay? Alright. That'll be it for this one. Stay tuned for my next video. It's coming soon. You all have a wonderful day. And thank you again. Bye now.